Good evening. This is CTV News for Tuesday, April 1st. I'm Byron Scott.
And I'm Denise Douglas. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, on Capitol Hill today, consumer groups join families to seek justice for loved ones killed because of faulty ignition switches in vehicles made by General Motors. Ray Baker is there with this story.
After the tragic results of the failed ignitions on General Motors vehicles, leading to at least 12 reported deaths, families took to the Capitol to seek justice for their loved ones.
These are our children. We have to be their voice. We have to speak for them. And in some ways, we're the voice of many right now, people that this has not touched and I hope never does.
We want members of Congress to understand that this is a human issue, that this has harmed families all over America, and that they have to do something about it. And they need to pass legislation so this doesn't happen again.
Supporters are critical of GM and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, suggesting they both knew more and could have done more.
They weren't asleep at the wheel. That's saying that they didn't know. This was covered up. I have no doubt about that. It was covered up. 2001, they approved the specs for something that was not up to their standards, that they knew would be defective in some way, shape, or form. And then we had the first death, my Amber Marie, in 2005. They didn't sit up and take notice. There was reports filed. They should have.
Is that unless you make NHTSA more transparent and force them to gather the information from the manufacturers on deaths that are caused by defects, they simply miss them.
Consumer advocates and families are devastated by the loss of their loved ones, but they remain optimistic and persistent that even with a divided Congress, reform will be passed.
When families come here, and that's the reason that they've come, sometimes they open up their hearts as they should, and we're hoping that that makes the difference.
On Capitol Hill, I'm Ray Baker, CTV News.
And Ray also tells us that GM CEO Mary Barra testified before a House subcommittee and will do so before a Senate subcommittee tomorrow.
And April is Distracted Driver Awareness Month. The Maryland Motor Vehicle Administration and AAA want you to know that texting, talking on handheld cell phones, and eating while driving are not only dangerous distractions, but are the leading causes of crashes nationwide and in Maryland. The MVA says an average of 250 people die each year on Maryland roads due to distracted driving. And despite tougher laws prohibiting texting or using a handheld device, people continue to do so.
Not sure. I just text. I don't know.
It's against the law, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't do it often. I just do it when it's important, like when I have to get a message across.
No, I don't think I ever have.
Never.
No.
And many people don't realize that if you're texting behind the wheel, you're in the worse shape than you were if you were high on pot. That's how distracting it is. And you show the same type of behavior as a person who's drunk or high on drugs when you're distracted.
The Motor Vehicle Administration says police will step up enforcement through the month. And tonight, the search for Relisha Rudd continues. Police in the district have identified also that body found in the Northeast Park yesterday as that of Khalil Tatum, the man wanted in connection with the disappearance of Relisha Rudd. Investigators say Tatum was shot in the head, suffering what appears to be a self-inflicted wound. His body was found in a shed near a football field in Kenilworth Park. Meantime, once again, the search continuing for the 8-year-old girl who was last seen with Tatum a month ago. More than 200 police officers, cadets, divers, and volunteers are combing the park for Rudd, who's been missing since February and is feared dead.
Well, here is a question for you. Will the state's health care website be scrapped? The Maryland Health Benefit Exchange Board of Trustees will meet today in Baltimore to decide the future of the flawed site. The board could decide to use technology from another state that has had a more successful rollout. Maryland officials have been weighing what to do to better be prepared for the next enrollment period in November. The site has cost the state upwards of $200 million.
A 3-story apartment complex in Lanham is evacuated and nearly 50 residents displaced after a utility closet catches fire. Now, the 2-alarm blaze broke out at around 7:30 this morning on the 10,000 block of Greenbelt Road. Firefighters arriving on the scene found smoke billowing from the building.
They discovered a fire in the closet utility room in apartment 103. That is a utility room which extends all the way up to the top floor. Fire did extend all the way up from Unit 103 to 2 and all the way up to Division 3 and to the roof. And we had not a tremendous amount of fire, but limited fire, but needed a lot of resources to put the fire out.
Now, no injuries were reported, but it took about a half hour for dozens of firefighters to knock down the fire. Now, 15 apartment units are deemed uninhabitable, displacing 30 adults and 15 children. They're being assisted by the management company and the Red Cross. Damages estimated at $50,000.
Oh, big stuff. Well, you are watching CTV News, and I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Byron Scott.